Hello and welcome everyone. This is a wonderful turnout on this beautiful night. Thank you so much for joining us for another installment of Poetry in the Park. We're thrilled this evening to be hosting Sass Denny, Paul Druecke, Nikki Wallschlaeger, and Ed Roberson. My name is Mike Wendt. I'm the program director at Woodland Pattern Book Center here in Milwaukee. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that in Milwaukee we live and work on traditional Potawatomi, Ho-Chunk, and Menominee homelands along the southwest shores of Michigami, part of North America's largest system of freshwater lakes, where the Milwaukee, Menominee, and Kinnickinnic rivers meet, and the people of Wisconsin's sovereign Anishinaabe, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, Oneida, and Mohican nations remain present. We further acknowledge the grave evil colonialism introduced to these lands through genocide as well as slavery, but also via racist and xenophobic beliefs, laws, and practices that continue to inflict harm upon Black, Brown, and Indigenous lives. We honor those who have lived and do live now at these intersections of identity and experience and are committed to the active dismantling of white supremacy. Again, thanks to you for joining us here at Juneau Park. Just a couple of items of business here before we get rolling. One is if you want to visit our book table right there, please do so. Or you can come visit us in River West at Woodland Pattern. Both, hopefully. It'd be great to see you as much as possible. Our next and last Poetry in the Park reading, that's wild, is Tuesday, September 13th, which will feature Janet Jenner-John, Elias Sepulveda, Rick Ullman, and Terry Marie Degree. So amazing lineup for that to close things out. We have a print newsletter with more information about the rest of this month's events, or you can find us online. But also if you're here in the Milwaukee area on Thursday, we're going to be hosting an event with Lainey Brown and Carla Harriman at Woodland Pattern on site. They'll both give readings and then also have a conversation around an anthology, A Forest on Many Stems, poets on the essays on the poet's novel. So that should be pretty fantastic. Again, that's this Thursday at Woodland Pattern at 7 p.m. And then, of course, I would be remiss not to thank the supporters of this event. Of course, you for being here, but also Juneau Park Friends, the National Endowment for the Arts, and Village Church. Thank you so much for generous support of this series. I'm excited first to welcome Sass Denny, who is an Oneida Ojibwe writer and graduate student in creative writing at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, and served as poetry editor at one time for Cream City Review. And I'm very much looking forward to hearing her read. Oh, welcome, Sass.
Saguli. Yawako to Mike and Woodland Pattern for inviting me here. This is really exciting. Okay. I can't say she never gave me anything. She told me water remembers, and I laughed. I laughed tributaries down the ranges and valleys of my face. She told me the stars guide us, and I coughed. I shook my head and bit my tongue, ashamed to admit that I'm always looking up. She told me that I'm sacred, and I screamed. My bones oscillate and murmur. They remember being caged better than I do. Imposter syndrome. I've been scooped out and my original shape pressed into a mold that they want and stuffed back into the vessel. My neck twitches and ticks crawl over my skin. Lightning kisses my veins. Misfiring neurons who have lost their way. Dendrites flapping, paths altered, abandoned. Desire to blend with white carves me like an apple, red skin encapsulating white nucleus. I smile, solaced by their ability to see right through me. Sky Woman. There's a lesson to be learned from the woman who fell, but her husband dug the hole, or her father pushed her in, depending on who is telling the story or who is listening. Auntie says I'm supposed to learn that being nosy or demanding leads to a plummet. She pinches me when nobody is watching. I wonder if it's an action-adventure story and everyone missed the point. I wonder if it's universal for creation stories to begin with a woman falling into a hole, falling from grace, whatever that is. She carried roots and dirt in her fist, plummeting from Skyworld, a forceful planting that left a crater. The center of the universe is a black hole. He seemed like a harmless guy. We're only holes to them, or is that too bitter? She woke up. If they fill us, maybe they can fill themselves. Follow it. Bone crunches, teeth crack, blood meanders down a mangled mandible, bare feet, disoriented and ended. A tree offers shelter as the waters remember their way over the land. Her tongue is salved as the waters discover 2 holes, deep cuts, right through my bone. She says the bear and deer were spirits. I closed my eyes, and when I opened them, there to guide her, follow it. She lets the waters of the river carry her. Nothing felt quite real, she said. The brain can lie to us, tell us it doesn't hurt. Follow it. She woke up. Bad Indian Cento number 1. What's the best way to kill a lie? Like bad spirits, they are notoriously immune to arrows. Our chosen weapons, field notes, wax cylinders, singing words over bones of those reburied with intimate tenderness, new stories, old tongue, to create a space where voices can speak, listening to those stories seep the antidote to lies. Bad Indian Cento number 5. I had to learn fast, but I needed this magic. Drawn back to that brown, stony land, and above that shadow, the piercing white constellations of summer. Sometimes our bodies are bridges, mouths of history and science over which our descendants cross. We ache with fractures from echoes of that turbulence. All my life, I knew I would disappear. If I could keep making words, tell a story, then maybe I could hang on. That's how I imagine forgiveness feels, when it comes, and if it comes. The next 2 poems are called Ageslatago, which is the Oneida word for in my dreams. Just FYI. Okay, so Ageslatago, number 43. She and I are running through the woods on her grandma's property up north. The singing waters of the little stream we always played in, gushing, enthusiastic waters. But I can hear our breathing, noisy and gulping as we sprint. Something is chasing us, I think, but I don't look back. I keep hearing in my head, don't look back, keep going. Concentrate on the flap of her dark hair. She races ahead of me, always leaving me behind. I want to catch up to her, to run beside her instead, but my limbs move through viscous winds. A jolt and tug at my ankle, and I'm flying, falling, just as I hit the ground. Wake up, heart too fast, sheets cling, and cold sweat. Ageslatago, number 67. Orange light throbs over everything, and I am floating down, down, down. I'm behind the house. Someone is carrying me. I try to see their face, but they're holding me close. It feels good, but then they're gone, and I'm alone, watching the light recede. I weep and scream at the sky, watching every twinkle, hoping it's my own coming back to me. Whenever my grandma tells us stories, she yells, "Sarahut Sadat, listen already," my grandma used to hiss. Stories to us in the dark. We'd been the ones begging anyway. Why couldn't we just shut up for 2 damn seconds? Back in the old times, back when people were scarce, back when the world was a breath held and expelled in perpetuity, balanced. She might sing, she might hum an intricate tune, she might dance, sing, and hum, shaking her rattle and hissing for us to listen. What is a journey? First, the wind introduced itself. It wasn't impolite. It didn't disregard the boundaries of her body. He asked her to let him touch her, and she said yes. Tendrils and brush of shadow, feathers of the chickadee tickling her skin and pressed against coolness of stone, syncopated breath and the susurrus of skin on clean sheets. A constant taste. Emerald patchwork, waxy blades of green burst from cracked concrete, vernal invasion into stone inertia, compacted soil hollowed by pools of water, a dotting of locks halting growth, minuscule square of green freshly cut, air thick with its keening stench. You told me it's a distress signal, a flood of chemicals wept by grasses called green leaf volatiles, precursors, pioneers, ancestors to ozone formation. Cities pay for the smell. Suburbs secrete distress, while sun shines sharp on glass and glowing driveways. We flare our nostrils and say it smells good. I remember the thick blanket of St. John's lawn, signs dotting its perimeter, all warning to keep off. The way it sinks beneath our feet for a second too long, a soft, supple anticipation, warmth of smiles, taste of green screams. And my final poem is called Braiding the Winds, and it is a collage poem mixed with language from Harriet Maxwell Converse's Myths and Legends of the New York State Iroquois. Leaping furies and mountainous waves, devastating earth, outbursts disciplining winds to their proper seasons, rage, elements. The first time I knew chaos was the day I turned 7 years old. I waited for Daddy at the window all day, pushing away fawning grown-ups and cousins who wanted me to come play or open presents. The drapes were a hideous green that I thought looked like monster skin, and I rubbed a small section over and over while I waited for Daddy's car to rumble up the driveway. He had promised to come, even though he and Mama yelled at each other whenever he came to pick me up or drop me off. I'd asked for corn soup, and Auntie Zena brought venison and buffalo and squash. Headlights flash on the house across from us, someone turning onto our street, and my heart is a tilt-a-whirl. Blue and red lights swirl, and a black and white car stops along the curb by our mailbox. 2 men in uniform come out and knock on our door. I stay at the window. I clutched monster skin and held my breath. Prowling sky, spreading echoes lumber, over mountains pushed from bears' boisterous winds. Wait his call. Freeze waters with your breath. You carry the wild sky. The first time I saw the house breathe, you were walking down the tiny alley between my house and the next. The siding swelled out like it was inflatable, and for a moment I worried it would crush you. But when the house breathed out, released that buildup of impossible, there you were. You were fine. It was that liminal hour between dusk and darkness when the air is bruised and gathering itself. I figured the house's movement was like a stretch, loosening joints, a precious moment of unfurling. There's no room to breathe in the city. Each house is crammed up next to the other, always fragmented inside. The landlords like to disembody them to maximize profit, divvying them up into tiny apartments that cost an insulin pen and your grandmother's leg. You stare at the side of the house for a moment, but you don't scream or look around to see if anyone else saw. You place your hand against the house and slowly rub in wide circles. I exhale when you press your forehead to its belly. Soft summer sky grew flower secrets. Flock of winds bend earth. A shrill blast and darkness crept into clouds, whirling circles, tearing rifts. Uncle Carter told us that our great-great-great-great-auntie was wife to an Irish fur trader. He'd purchased her from the priests, the ones who'd promised her parents they would teach her the ways of the white people so she could return with the knowledge and help with trade relations. She traveled with this husband, translating, negotiating, and watching. During her travels, she met other girls and women who had been given to white men. One day, she met a girl, no older than 9, being tugged along by a huge, pale man. Off to marry a Frenchman, he told her husband. She cajoled him to invite the man to travel with them on their way. After 2 days, they were camped just off the path at the edge of a small cliff. Uncle Carter always holds his breath at this point in the story and leans forward, as if bestowing a tremendous secret. While her husband and the girl slept, my auntie, great beyond great, pushed this man off the cliff. Splat. And we laugh until our tummies cramp, tears pour. But she wasn't satisfied, Uncle Carter says, once we've calmed down, because Auntie's husband was also a bad man. He would beat her and often scorned the ways of the peoples he met in private, while being smiles and lies to their faces. Do you know what she did, he would ask. Whisper. A bunched hush, and then we all yell splat. Fierce storms climb high mountains and carry the great high warning moan like the calling of a lost sky, shivered in mist, mist, sky, sky, sky. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was fantastic. Now it's my pleasure to welcome Paul Druecke, who's a writer and artist. His ongoing project, America Pastime, was recommended by the New York Times. His work with public inscription was included in the 2014 Whitney Biennial and featured in Blackwell and Wiley's Companion to Public Art. He has published 2 books, Life and Death on the Bluffs and The Last Days of John Budgen, Jr. Druecke's interdisciplinary projects explore the fault lines of social convention, and I should say that an excerpted piece from America Pastime has been printed and is available at the table there by Chuck, actually, in collaboration with Paul, so check that out too. Welcome and thank you, Paul.
Hello, getting there. Dear, I found a jar. When it's warm out, I think about us dropping acid. Honor thy mother, father, dear thyself as temporary. On the side of the road, pink ribbon, used condom, growing eco-chorus. Pregnant robin makes on the street. Dear, tell me again, what do you see? Tell me what democracy looks like. Making litter personal, dear, since 2020. We begin, appropriately enough, with brief excerpts that I call conversation starters, which are the beginning lines from entries in the project that Mike had mentioned, America Pastime. But I've gotten ahead of myself. I want to thank Woodland Pattern, and I want to thank all of you for coming, and the Friends of Juneau Park, everybody that makes this event happen. I'm honored to be reading with the all of the readers this evening. It's such a generous event. I feel like America Pastime kind of plugs in nicely to Poetry in the Park. The heart of America Pastime is a process I've coined trashing, which is simply looking for new types of currency in the landscape, and in particular with items left over, extra, and unwanted. There are a lot of various components. Images, video, and writing is integral to trashing. Where are we? This started in early 2020. We're going to start with a couple early entries, and then the chronology gets jumbled up. Day 29, June 3rd, 2020, Water in the Key of A minor. I know absolutely nothing about the people whose trash I pick up. Each muddied cellophane wrapper, crumpled impulse buy, burst plastic cup, striped straw, or branded hope for relief has its own gravitational pull, overflowing, taking me for a ride. Day 45, June 24th, 2020, Fustian and Fantasy numbers 1, 2, 3, which the numbers would correlate to some images that accompany parts of America Pastime find themselves on social media platforms. Dear D, the din and flutter of a loosed whatchamacallit wrapper, one ingredient in the cocktail of individual exceptionalism. We share thoughts for blistering nervous systems, lips apart, resound common flotsam and jetsam, mine and mine alone, yours, PD. The next day, day 46, June 25th, 2020, Memoriam Brevis, Dear D, emotional whiplash, I breathe dirt clouds, frog song ratchets upward, an ant picks up other people's trash, imperious artifacts. The planet cares little how we arrange crumbs on its surface. The value of a midden is time. I move things from unsightly to unfortunate, battling pride, courage, want. Yours, PD. Hashtag trash performance, hashtag litter walk, hashtag trash tag, hashtag trash walk, hashtag trash still life, hashtag contemporary composition, hashtag natural music, hashtag nature museum, hashtag we are nature, hashtag modern midden, hashtag America pastime, hashtag measuring spoon. And I do want to shout out that piece that Mike referenced, that Chuck generously designed, laid out, and printed in conjunction with the reading tonight, which helped me see that hashtags obviously have a relationship to the project on social media and they serve a function, but they are literary, and that publication helped me to see that. Thank you. America Pastime is fundamentally a search for connecting. When it started, those early days of the pandemic, and we were forced to be in isolation, going out into the world and looking for these things was really an attempt to stay connected, or to gauge the possibility for connection, I guess. Enough background. Dear, I found a jar. Previously used, in perfect condition. Goodness, gorgeous. There is more, a drumful. Thousands of starless nights. Our laboratory fills with listening. Ridiculous stories. A gallon of bleach at the nature preserve. Hungry groping turns it on. Turn on. Hashtag organic chemistry. Hashtag latent energy, hashtag natural splendor, hashtag street, hashtag America Pastime, hashtag perfect balance, hashtag specimens, hashtag foraging, hashtag natural beauty. In the early days, my perspective was very zoomed out, and there was this idea of the planet and what does this material mean on the surface of the planet. More recently, and we're getting now to some more recent entries, it's very zoomed in and it's very microscopic. In 1907, one of the pioneers of polymer science prepared polypeptide leucel-triglycyl-leucil-triglycyl-leucil-octoglycyl glycine, consisting of 18 amino acids now part of our collective body. It's true. The colors harmonize. I think a lot about molecular convergence. When it's warm out, I think about us dropping acid. Chemistry class, dear. Molecular inspiration, alkali burns, pleather coin purse, filled with baking soda, stained with Cheetos dust, we peek behind the veil. Dear, tell me again, what do you see? Time as measure. Let's say mythic battles between pure chance, intelligence, psychosis, and survival. You mean chain reaction, we buck to the curb. This is maybe a good point to read just a couple brief excerpts from Gertrude Stein piece, essay, composition as explanation, and a little break from my voice. And I love this work, and it's one that travels with me all the time, and especially when I am trashing. Continuous present is one thing, and beginning again and again is another thing. These are both things. And then there is using everything. I love that sentiment. This brings us again to composition. The using everything. The using everything brings us to composition and to this composition. A continuous present and using everything and beginning again. The only thing that is different from one time to another is what is seen, and what is seen depends on how everybody is doing everything. And perhaps what everybody is leaving in the wake of doing everything. Tell me what democracy looks like. Bullhorn, neon vest, boots on the ground. I'm torn to pieces. Everyone is well hydrated thanks to pioneers of polymer science. Reminds us of us. Relentless capitalism on the street is what we look like. Tell us about yourself in times of war. White, cis, het male with borrowed molecular structures. 100 years ago, I would have been dead. 1922, age 40. Now 58, overflowing with shit and garbage left on the ground or channeled into open waters since time began. Effluvia and microplastics bumping along with polypeptides, polysaccharides, lipids, friendly old H2O, and much more. Ask the pioneers of polymer science. Everything bubbling like salty brews in an iron cauldron tucked deep in the cheek of symbolism. Most everything moves from more to less precious, right? And you? We things. I guess I just included the hashtags for this one. Hashtag thingness, hashtag modern enchantment, hashtag street, hashtag street choreography, hashtag my litter, hashtag America Pastime, hashtag epistolary seduction, hashtag litter conversations, hashtag contemporary art, hashtag contemporary composition. Dearest, can I get another image of you kneeling to marvel at things left over, left behind, inventing context for yourself? An empty Funyuns bag flattened to the winter sidewalk, its signature yellow and green, covered with icy sludge, the color of soot and taste of unexpected pavement. That is a very slippery combination. The bag's careless discard speaks power and control lived short term. The familiar logo ignores disillusionment and irony, playing its role as if nothing had changed since the onion-flavored cornmeal rings hit the scene in 1969. Alt text for Instagram. 5 generations stepping over the same rusty bottle cap, thirst trap, tattered natural cellophane confectionery, ho-hos, ding-dongs, deer, Twinkies. Starlight travels, expanding quiet to reach crude jokes, bend round my breath's animal on the loose. Event Horizon, that's from September 22nd, 2021. Just a couple more. This is a very recent entry. Gull, 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 gull. On high, down low, we have no choice. Deer, pecking order decreed. That was off. We have no choice, dear. Pecking order decreed. The last shall be first. Every species thinks themselves chosen. Rare moments when the refrigerator isn't running, we are susceptible to quiet. I think I included that one. What is essentially an outdoor activity at this point, 2 years in, I mean, it kind of permeates everything that I do. And it's definitely moved inside. Today, I will find the lid to someone's to-go cup. We are alone, dear, together. And I just want to close. That last line made me think of a speech that I read. Again, this was years ago. And I want to just read a brief excerpt from a speech that Elizabeth Cady Stanton gave in 1892 as she was resigning from the National American Women's Suffrage Association after decades of collaborating with a dear friend, Susan B. Anthony. All men and women, inside or outside of marriage, are fundamentally alone and cannot rely on anyone but themselves. Think for a moment of the immeasurable solitude of self. We come into the world alone. Unlike all who have gone before us, we leave it alone under circumstances peculiar to ourselves. Even our friendship and our love we never fully share with another. As kind of intense, but I find it very inspirational for someone who had such a productive life working in collaboration with someone to also be navigating a deep sense of isolation and perhaps alienation. And somehow I connected to this idea of chasing after things left in the landscape as a way of feeling connected to other human beings. And I thought I had something else that, I mean, I'm happy that we are all here together for this event in this space this evening, kind of navigating those questions of connection to one another. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Paul. Fantastic. Okay. rolling right along. Really excited next to welcome Nikki Wallschlaeger, whose work has been featured in The Nation, Brick, American Poetry Review, Witness, Kenyon Review, Poetry, and others. She is the author of the full-length collections Water Baby, Houses, and Crawl Space, as well as the graphic book I Hate Telling You How I Really Feel. And also a forthcoming book from Copper Canyon Press, Hold Your Own. So that's very exciting, and congratulations. She's also the author of an artist book called Operation USA through the Baltimore-based book arts group Container, a project acquired by Woodland Pattern, and it's a wonderful pleasure to welcome her tonight. Welcome, Nikki.
Hi everyone, it's good to be back. Valley of Things. Hang your head when you walk. Yesterday's news is greener. To survive, ham with ideas of a common holiness. Decisions to make about what's going to siphon off your thoughts. Fuse giddiness to the citizen elective, creature by creature. When a very young child throws down an object, it's beautiful to watch. They don't know about the value of thingification, hanging over the riverbanks. A good poet prays to nature. I brush out tangles during graceful animal hunting season. Sometimes we hear a crush, figure out a daily schedule, read tortured philosophers, listen to James Booker on repeat. Black woman on a plane, 21st century. Minutia in a bowl, jury-rigged hand, in need of a drink. The flight attendant said, "It's on me. I must have looked like I needed one." Such a rough climb, wobbly as the sun during Leo season. Come to find out, a brand new plane is hot to handle. The first breath, crucial, coughs. My favorite path of looking winds up when I'm in the air. There's no way to vacuum seal death up here, I suppose, even though I've never felt the urge to buy a traveling pillow. If something develops, if our machine defects, I'll ask if I can hold the hand of the woman who gave me a drink. Then it's time to land like nothing happened. The captain standing at the door with his crew. He's younger than I am, a baby-faced white boy. We don't know his name or where he came from. Prayer sonnet. Sown up again in a data harvest meadow, moving through me as pelvic bowl thunder. To learn how to laugh at their indifference, revenge of the chattel is not being shown in any of the popular art houses. Blood heavy is the iron binding us together. Public wordplay is called getting dragged. Violences of daily metaphor. In our very real world, these solvent metaphors are true. Hell investigates life with great opportunity. My little candle mouth kindling for the wounded. When the stars are committed to the worst timing and no one wants to get out of bed in the morning. Jamais vu state of mind. When you keep repeating a lie, people will accept it as truth. But underneath that feeling is a merciful border that never existed, splitting the familiar stone tablets, when we grind our teeth at night and wake up in the morning tired. There's a lot of work to get done. Love and devotion are strange deities who are notoriously indirect with their instructions. It happens when you focus on somebody while walking, the trees straining towards each other and past the flailing villages made from our kin. Women are doomed to be the angels of love. This is so true, I involuntarily doodle hearts everywhere I go. I sign my letters compulsively with hearts, dream of disobedient hearts, work with hearts. I eat them. I boil sauces, and the tomatoes on my cutting board form a daisy chain heart. My feet are bound in red ballet slippers, Lisa Frank style, engorged with crusty satin hearts. I pronounce my name with an embarrassingly hearty accent. My colostrum pools with the plumping of an inflamed heart, inspired by the nutritional needs of my babies. Hearts are spray painted on trains like talismans, guiding me eventually to the heart afterlife, where my treasured friends exist in heart time, drinking wine and organizing a workers' collective named Heavenly Valley Emotional Workers in the mossy hidden heart clouds, where my restless heart tires of hearing famous singers singing sweetly about unsatisfying love in the grocery store when their hearts could be screaming about environmental devastation and global capitalism. The way this callous dorm pillow I saw online plastered with hearts and dream catchers says only good vibes is in no way related to what the hearts of this country really need. On good days, I submit to being a committed student of the heart. On bad days, I am paranoid and anxious about my heart being kidnapped by intruders in blue uniforms. And how a scene in Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom, where the sacrificial victim's heart gets ripped out, and one of Hollywood's stereotypical cinematic presentations of indigenous culture, sent me a message about men who are so powerful they could take what they wanted from my body with their bare hands. Where do bad folks go when they die? Asked Kurt Cobain on my favorite Nirvana album. I replace folks with hearts and marvel at the candor of strange, smarmy men on TV who want to be president, who have no clue being part of a community is different from purchasing investments in a city. My heart is stone sore. My heart wants to close forever to protect me from market combat. But as a woman bred for strength and openness, I lack options. I'm pretty good at the precarious art of choosing what gets in. Since doom makes a great gatekeeper, it's rainwater in a vase of roses on a sleeping hero's grave. When the devil leads us home and yells surprise. Is that your house? He asked. This used to be my house, I said. But those are not your people, so that can't be your house. But it is my house, I said. I had some people, maybe a few. Even though those are not your people, even though they don't look like you. I had to live somewhere, I said. This is the house where I lived. But where are your people, he said. My people live in a different house. They don't care to know about me. If you're the devil, why are you asking me questions? The devil said, since the house you had to live in is gone, I thought you'd be happy. It sure is a hot day, I said. Of course it is, said the devil. Why do you think I work in town? 100-year flood. A barn owl teases the bright dark, and you are unmanageable. The people of the area have a standby way to talk about it, a right to ferment content that's forever pushing guidelines on how to guillotine the poor. Buildings unhinged and running, mud tickling through synaptic bricks. Not sure what we can say except to repeat the obvious, and some aren't ungrateful for an interruption. Disaster brings lemon pepper frogs and antsy canines, plenty of puffy men eager to drape their heroes' posed tendons. I feel satiated by their confidence, or at least its familiar performance. An elderly woman told a volunteer fireman she was too old to care. What happens when you struggle for generations and a storm ejects what you're still struggling for? In the end, infrastructure owned her. Shelter remained temporary yet seductive. She refused to patch her excitement while she reported on the damage. Decades of keeping house, children, and working shit jobs unsettled her more than a flood ever could. Why do I feel so old when I look so young? Why do I feel so old when I look so young? Have a night of okay fun, and I feel better and younger, refreshed, maybe lovelier. But in the morning, I feel just as old again. Hey friend, how are you? I see you're young too, around the same age as me. Look at those folks with their big boy pens and crooked chairs. They act younger than we do, and our lives are somewhere else, and faces even older than these. When I was younger, people thought I was older, so they did older people things to me, said things too. Probably why I'm feeling old when I'm still looking young, because of what older people did when I was little. Should have known better not to do. Say, friend, I hear you too. Things happen to you. That's the way evil goes. Lets people do bad things. Don't know why that is, but the how is inside the what, tying the ends of the who. Maybe we can stop it from going to the next someone. Yes, it's like that. The could've, the should've, and the would've. If I would have known then what I know now, maybe I could have got out of the way, but I was too young, and now I'm older. Outside the what and the who, but still inside the how and the why. Let me introduce my old-ass self. How do you do? My name is Young, plus the last time I loved without fear. Fantastic voyage. Pottering ain't my strong point anymore, but hey, I got a trunk full of Florida water and briefings direct from heaven to favor your steps. And if you're feeling like I do watching the birds drop like snow when they hit the windows, it's no place for a black woman like you, this ice nation rigmarole where they profess to have hearts of tissue paper condolences. Your ship's name is the SS I told you so. Ha! Isn't it? I see those flaring tendrils pop like an old neon light in a South Philly dive bar. Looking down for all of time and shaking your pretty head so everyone can see those thick, everlasting roses they call eyelashes. But when we look up over into your eyes, they know which way the wind blows. God is gathering his cards on you, girl. Gets all sanguine when he mentions your name. Anyway, I'm here anytime you need a lift, because I know how you feel about what you got to work with down there. You're too deep, you won't even bother with roads. You need an entire globe of motion to maneuver at will, and even then, you'll never be satisfied. Lullaby. Sleep like their terrible gods have left you, and obscurity is a passive worry again. Creatures who prefer my dark to the light. No investments in the temples of time, no bubbling oversights or official portraits. All that has clicked to your hammer today, all that's finished you off as a rosy spectator. Your job, your birdcage, opens onto a bridge, exhaled by the rain of the get-gone. The golden blood you fancied at work is cutting off another rare circulation. I reach over and dial down your tempo. You don't want to play that song over here. You've been unconscious all day, sweetie. And now you need some rest. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nikki. All right, closing things out this evening, thrilled to welcome Ed Roberson, who's the author of 12 books of poetry, most recently MPH and Other Road Poems, and Asked What Has Changed. A former special programs administrator at Rutgers University's Cook campus, Roberson has lived in Chicago since 2004 and is an emeritus professor in the Northwestern University's MFA Creative Writing program. He's also held posts at the University of Chicago, Columbia College, the University of California, Berkeley, and the Cave Canem Retreat for Black Writers. His honors include the Jackson Poetry Prize, the Shelley Memorial Award, the Ruth Lilly Poetry Prize, the Lila Wallace Reader's Digest Writers Award, and the African American Literature and Culture Association's Stephen Henderson Critics Award. Born and raised in Pittsburgh, Roberson has worked as a limnologist's assistant, conducting research on inland and coastal freshwater systems in Alaska's Aleutian Islands and in Bermuda, as a diver for the Pittsburgh Aqua Zoo and an advertising graphics agency in the Pittsburgh Steel Mills, among many other things. And it's a great pleasure to welcome Ed Roberson.
Thank you. I want to thank Woodland Pattern. Thank all the folks that I've been invited here to read with, and all my friends who've shown up to say hi. I want to read, I write serial poetry, which is still debatable what that is. But it's one poem that doesn't know what the next poem is going to say, and just the poems keep talking to each other, and you don't know when the poem ends. This is a series that I'm still working on the last couple of months, and they're sonnets. All of them are sonnets, and some of the sonnets will group together in an ode situation, like strophe, antistrophe, and epode. In other words, somebody will make a statement, and then someone will say no, and give you the opposite, and then someone will come in and say but, and put it all together. So the poems all talk back and forth to each other. And I'll stop between a couple of the poems. And they deal, all these poems deal with, you know how we all, we want our cup to runneth over. Yeah, well, that's wasteful, folks. So these poems all deal with where's the lip, or where's the just point, where's the justice, where's your share up to the tip, and not wasting somebody else's share over the lip. So this whole sequence is called The Runneth Over. The runneth over. A lot of garbage cans have that toe thing to be stepped on, to bust the lip open to show where the runneth over goes, to the bottom, back inside, the plastic baggy underwear worn outside, rim exposed, held in place by the closed top. A lot of people in there run over by their running over full field ambition. Had they only thought, whose run is it to collect the shit spill we run into the ground? The fashion of wearing one's pants so low the underwear shows, like you just pulled up or are about to pull your pants down, your junk out. How a run over or body hung reacts with its own autonomic justice to shove your fullness down your throat. All the over inches you have strangled it into the in your face, the down your throat of both sides of enforcement's face on it, the black body, that part of the Pharaoh, Osiris, our search naked song for what is whole. The pantyless forces beneath the crown of curves, the commando sway from side to side, whether this attempted satisfaction of the lover or the took on this bitch power trip going on, satiation, the matching or the sating overflow, which of these two, which meets our lips filled for meaning to continue to go on living, singing, once the cup met, come morning, washed is clean, the feast accomplished, the emptying come up. Well, here's the lip. Your good times don't get got from just nowhere. The life that fills your cup is of breathed air, huffed up by the brewer on the ladder, lauder, heaving the ingredients over the lip. The lip that runneth over need to shut its spill of overreach and waste down. Suck up the stain it has brought on its butt, sitting its glass down anywhere it cut down. Like that stump you're sitting on, it needs the leaves of what's missing for shade written to complete the sky above in that recipe for getting drunk under. Good times. Well, in the distance, what is that thunder? A cup of this. The air is troubled. A cup of it is enough to walk on, it's so thick. And it refuses to run over, it's enough, getting deeper and deeper. It is tough to breathe, let alone drink the draft the daily things draw for your glass to look at and to swallow. Your own face, the country its citizens have made of race. So any miracle of walking on water has devolved to kneeling on the breath of black necks of a stricken land's forge, its cross, the breath of its opened free, inviting cure, or its escape, anything such as Bethesda, all that's closed off. The dust of pools closed against a black swim. This closing brings about the ignorance of drowning and public quicksand again. Well, the fullness has a thing to say. Maybe we misunderstood that fullness. What elders said of eyes too big for bellies, cups, which have sight, often only in the range of other accumulating nothing to do with any of this, nor for that matter fill. These metastructural geometries of the eye's edges, though filled with sight, are not filled with seeing, it is said. And something of starvation is known to only staring There's got to be a creation of something somewhere, some diplomacy between fill and container, some need of not just one's own of the other, but that which is of the other one's need satisfied, something bodied, more like love than run of itself. A jade bowl, nothing dropped, in a sense of denied. Hold, on hold. If you have to tear down the statues, however so beautifully horsed, that did not lead to what their loss took its time to prove right won, their glorification wrong, if you have to turn up, to unseat, to turn over, to get back to the truth of what happened then the time wasted in these false monumentalizing, the repression of the people of, the truthful result you didn't face up to, well, it faces you still. And again, you have to tear down the statues on the land. Their unleased basis, now the basis of the land? No. The argument to the actual answer of human as correct. These Confederate bases are unleashed from confusing sands. This is better than losing your cookies to train horses that ride to monumentality in pure alleys of truth. Always this time, well, this is better than raising a nation crazy. No matter how finely, formally, beautifully tree-lined, if you have to lose all your cookies and all your statues to this, then do it. Do right. It'll be all right. Nostalgia is a means of having the history one wants, which is usually not the history one has or others have to live. Nostalgia is selfish, and its monuments are to actually the lessening of what they think they stand for, being short of. The war which the whole truth has won. The consequence of things, ratified by reality. That's what really won. Or not, if it doesn't. What is simply true and right? Like, black people are still right here. Black Lives Matter. All the monuments are here. The black skins raped to white. A white president who behaves like the blacks portrayed in Birth of a Nation. And a black president who behaves like our nostalgia of Lincoln after a Civil War revolution. After a Civil Rights Revolution. After the Civil War. It's actually sad. Look here, Wallace. Look here, Wallace. That yearning when you see the birds leave is already that you want it back the way it was, which is better than it was, really. You want to come home. You want to come home to what it was even before your time. Dirty hands lay hold to it. You want it out of those hands and into these sculptures. You want to see it as if formed of no material at all, no clay, place molding feet, no meat, thigh, butts, all wing. That is all idea, all line, all idea come out of head home to your hand, with which you would write if you could feel your hand writing from the well of that light. If such Phil could free want from that hold, slaves, those hated of nostalgia, would see their masters taken in by Phil, freed to die nostalgia of the white supremacy, a bone emptied dry of even air tuned for food. If some want could fill our freedom with a decency towards others, then from the human home there would return a country beyond yearning, without loss, without the angels of sigh, the words of birds spill, crushing the ridges back. No, not mythos, but they are around your own 2 feet. Obituary, unnamed as yet. This happened. I had cancer, and one of the things we learned is you learn a lot in the waiting room, and we were all waiting in the waiting room, naked, with our butts hanging out of these gowns, and just people would just sit there and they'd say, "No, I don't want to die." And in the waiting room one time, there was a big guy, had on a cowboy hat. Like I say, we're naked with our butts hanging out, in these little white gowns. He has a cowboy hat on and cowboy boots. And obviously unhappy to be in the waiting room to die with a bunch of black guys. In cowboy boots, cowboy hat, an ass out open hospital gown, the fact he's in line to die like any of these niggas in here with him don't sit well. This chair is cold, isn't it? It used to be in control and hot on the ass of everything it ran, down driving. Now the hot runs rule when and where he has to lay, not sit this racist ass shit down. Something tells me it doesn't run down that way to some. I mean, the rain driving across everybody's plane out of reach of some ultimately is the dust wall cloud bearing down. To think there is an underground hiding from, which there is no hiding, nor is death it from which to be hidden. Well, the understanding is deeply misunderstood. The hat, the boots, the white gown, the fact, all unfaced, the dying body, named beyond understanding. The obituary. Here comes a hymn. Hymn in translation. From the plate of his stone flat breast, the head of my city is served, the apple of its architectural love glowing, its burning dome like St. Peter into his eyes. The beloved she is, his cup of creation as his junk goes up in flames, inflame his own communion. Ra's God, Ra's song as God is the sun rising. The mouths of the dwelling doors open, window open, round letting in the outpouring, the sphere of blessings of the sun, which to be sung. Ra creates himself, the universe, out of himself. Then it follows. He eats himself at the sacrificial feast, in sacrifice to, in thanks to, the bountifulness of it all. Isn't this all our death is? Aren't we what Ra created himself from? From this creation, we feed ourselves. We live ourselves. We earn our death's thanks. We earn our death's thanks. For Uvalde, the neighbor's street sirens sing. In the neighbor's churches, the culture has a strict Conte ostinato of mass, shootings, on time to get over kind of repetitive grief as beat, vamp, line, of strung out hearses down, a street down, a gutted run up in, which being wound into and around this getting even going on, revenge is over to death it's keen. The culture always has it in the neighbors, not ours. Itself a kind of hood that labors not to any good understanding. Clan observance understood as separation plan of identity, rather than facing your own is my own, not mine to own this grieving, of which no dishing out can exist when it is only one pool to be traced in, traced from. Not just one in calibration, but them all capable, any one of them full, emotion, all who are there have, as the pool grief has, brought here. It is the waters looking over, ink over itself, in hand, writing, the called of its face from the cliff. It is of the land, its water, of tears, its culture, from here. Such thing as next neighbor is only the future. When we say what goes around comes around, this is it. The autochthonous future, found in a strung out hearse, down we have down, rehearsed to continuity, the faced avenue shore as shit, recalled as face all it comes down to, grief, the body. The body develops in continuity after a while, the jar, the hit, the disturbances line up, their toppling losses, dissipated in as if in a lifting distraction of the next ongoing, they develop a rocking sway, the lilting sails on a rolling triplet of swells in an ocean of music, and a grand horizon spills, a windy, vibrationless melody of counterpoint. Human instrument longs out, its yearning persistence of survival, the grand balance of the dances on the tossing decks, the elegant up and down, the dress design to drape this throne shape a hand around the breaking hip, the hip, into that somnolent silence after song of death. That all-time most popular going on with it until something comes of it. It's Conte ostinato, its vamp of the one string has ceased our caravan driver singing to guard itself of the empty horizon. the answer. When I answered the phone, "How are you?" Not so good spoke. The phone in my hand as a landscape held, my grip as if halfway round the world I am in, on this call on world in. My mother passed last night. This world on your hands, or he was shot through the window on the passenger side. He just handed me my drink, my cup. He just dropped into the town of how many people? The tornado poured its funnel across how many laps through open, dead. The war continues to escalate in areas of countries least able to sustain life through cultivation of a tolerant political. A landslide swept countless victims in a ringing bowl dose shit of angel-feathered mud and rock headed down, streamed across borders to restored safety, when in reality to be faced by their children snatched from the arms of their relief into cages, and sending the parents to the ticket booth of this zoo. We are counted number, vote staring. Functionally, the eyes should see the same, "How you doing, sky?" See the same, "How you doing?" Say the same eye to eye, ape kind of eye. Not so good. Address back in sight. In basic sight, elephant tears, a basic response. It's not just a big elephant, it's everyone's basic. Everything's possible. Everything possible to grieve is to be grieved. Thank you.
Thank you. That was incredible. Thank you once again to Sass Denny, to Paul Druecke, to Nikki Wallschlaeger, and to Ed Roberson one more time for all of them. And thanks to you all, and thanks again, Juneau Park Friends, NEA, and Village Church. Come join us next month, Tuesday, September 13th, for the final Poetry in the Park reading. And stick around, enjoy the good company and the beautiful evening. Good night, everyone.